A woman can weather 3 storms and still find herself sitting pretty in the sunshine. Delilah Monroe was that kind of woman, one who could take a beating from life, bury what she loved, and still walk into town wearing a smile sharp enough to make men forget their own names. 3 husbands gone, 1 to sickness, 1 to bad luck, and 1 to a mysterious death nobody dares mention when the preacher's around. Yet there she stood, crimson dress blazing like fire, daring trouble to come calling. Before we continue, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. And, if you're loving this Western romance, hit that subscribe button because I've got more stories coming your way. The Silver Spur Saloon in Copper Valley, Texas, had witnessed its share of excitement. Gunfights that left men bleeding on the sawdust floor, card cheats who met swift justice, and traveling preachers trying to save souls over rot-gut whiskey. But nothing had prepared the establishment for the afternoon when Delilah Monroe walked through those bat-wing doors like she owned the place. The temperature outside sat at 98 degrees that August day in 1878, but inside the saloon, winter had blown in. Every conversation died. Every card hand froze. Even old Zachariah's harmonica wheezed to a stop, leaving only the tick of the grandfather clock and the sound of 25 grown men trying not to swallow their tongues. Delilah Monroe stood 5'6" in her crimson silk dress, a color so bold it captured every ray of sunlight and threw it back tenfold. The dress hugged her figure in all the proper places and a few improper ones, with a neckline that made the Baptist minister's wife clutch her pearls. Her auburn hair was pinned up with deliberate casualness, letting rebellious curls frame her face. But it wasn't just the dress that had every man forgetting how to breathe. It was the reputation that walked in with her, dark and dangerous as a thundercloud. 3 husbands dead before her 29th birthday, and the whole town whispering about whether it was coincidence or something sinister. Harold Whitmore had taken ill with consumption, though folks whispered it looked suspicious how fast he went downhill after their wedding supper. Benjamin Crawford drowned in Willow Creek during a fishing trip, despite being the strongest swimmer in 3 counties. And Thomas Hartwell had been found dead in his bathtub, wearing a confused expression and the remnants of a smile. The official cause was heart failure, but the unofficial cause was whispered to be something far more scandalous. Marcus Rowland, a traveling merchant, was the first to break the spell. "Well, I'll be dipped in molasses," he muttered. The saloon erupted as men scrambled to get a better look at the infamous widow. In the corner booth, nursing a whiskey, sat Cole Blackwood, ex-Texas Ranger, retired gunfighter, and possessor of enough common sense to know that when a woman like Delilah Monroe walked into a room, smart men kept their distance. Cole was 6'3" of lean muscle and hard experience, with steel-gray eyes that missed nothing. His dark hair was touched with silver at the temples, earned through years of chasing outlaws. A scar ran from his left ear to his jaw, a souvenir from a knife fight in El Paso. He'd been in Copper Valley for 3 days, passing through to San Antonio when word of the widow's raffle reached his ears. Now watching her survey the room like a general inspecting troops, he found himself curious about what scheme was brewing behind those emerald eyes. Delilah let the chaos continue for 30 seconds before clearing her throat. The sound cut through the noise like a church bell. The room fell silent. "Gentlemen," she said, her voice carrying a honey-sweet drawl with steel underneath, "I do believe you're making enough noise to wake the dead, and Lord knows I've had enough experience with that." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Cole found himself fighting back a grin. The woman had style and nerve. Delilah moved through the room with grace and confidence. "I'm here about the raffle," she announced, pulling a cloth bag from her reticule. The drawing for that fine Arabian stallion. Cole had seen those handbills everywhere, advertising a contest for a prize horse worth more than most men made in a year. The entry fee was $5. What the handbills hadn't mentioned was that the widow would be conducting the drawing personally. "Now, I know some of you might be wondering about the legitimacy of this contest," Delilah continued. "Rest assured, everything is perfectly honest and above board." Cole caught the emphasis on perfectly and felt his ranger instincts tingle. She pulled out a small wooden box, ornately carved and polished. All the ticket numbers are in here, gentlemen, fair and square. She gave it a theatrical shake. Who'd like to do the honors of drawing the winning ticket? Every man volunteered at once. Delilah laughed, a sound like silver bells. My, such enthusiasm. But I think we need someone impartial, someone with an unquestionable reputation for honesty. Her gaze swept the room, and when those green eyes landed on Cole, he felt a jolt. You there in the corner, she said, pointing at him. The gentleman with the serious expression. You look like a man who can be trusted with something important. Every head turned toward Cole. Ma'am, he said carefully, I appreciate the confidence, but I'm not sure I'm the right man for this. Oh, come now, Delilah interrupted, moving toward his table. Surely you're not afraid of a little raffle drawing. The challenge was unmistakable. Cole stood slowly. At his full height, he towered over most of the room, his coat falling open to reveal a Colt .45. Ma'am, he said, touching his hat brim. I'd be honored to help. Wonderful, she said, extending the box. Just reach in and pull out a slip. Cole took the box and reached in. He selected one at random and pulled it out. The winning number is 73. A collective groan rose as men checked their tickets. Nobody claimed the prize. 73, Delilah repeated with disappointment. Oh my, it appears our winner isn't present. According to the rules, if the winning number isn't claimed immediately, we'll have to draw again tomorrow. However, Delilah continued, before we adjourn, I should mention I have one ticket that hasn't been accounted for. This ticket was purchased by a gentleman who requested that if he won, his prize should go to the most honest man in the room. Cole felt every eye turn toward him. The ticket number is, she opened it slowly, 73. What an amazing coincidence. The room erupted in laughter and applause. Delilah moved closer, close enough that he could smell her perfume, jasmine and vanilla. Congratulations, mister, she paused. Blackwood, he said. Cole Blackwood. Mr. Blackwood, she repeated. I'm Delilah Monroe, and I believe you've just won yourself a very fine horse. If you're enjoying this story, leave a comment and let me know what you think happens next. Will Cole accept the prize? What's Delilah really after? Drop your predictions below and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Cole looked at the slip of paper, then back at her. Ma'am, I appreciate the gesture, but I have a feeling this horse comes with strings attached. The horse is stabled at my ranch, she continued, about 15 miles northeast of town. I'd be happy to show him to you whenever you're ready. Ma'am, I'll need time to think about this. Of course, Delilah said. Take all the time you need, but don't take too long. A prize like this might not wait forever, and neither will I. She turned to address the room. Thank you all for participating, gentlemen. And with that she walked out, leaving behind disappointed men and one confused ex-ranger who suspected he'd just been recruited for something far more complicated than claiming a horse. As the batwing doors swung shut, the crimson dress disappeared into the Texas afternoon. But the memory lingered like distant thunder, promising a storm. 3 hours later, Cole was still at the same table, nursing his third whiskey. The saloon had returned to normal, though conversations remained focused on the widow. That woman's got more curves than the Rio Grande, Clayton Mercer was saying. Red's always been trouble, added Marcus Rowland. Grant Ellison, the town's banker, shook his head. You're all missing the point. That raffle was fixed from the start. Fixed how? Clayton asked. Think about it. She needed someone specific to win, someone with particular skills. So she set up this show to make sure the right man got picked. But why Mr. Blackwood? The answer came from Murphy the bartender. Cole Blackwood tracked down the Dalton gang single-handed back in '75. Brought in Black Pete Morrison when 3 other Rangers couldn't. When folks need real trouble handled, there's only one name that comes to mind. So the widow's got a problem, Grant concluded. The kind that requires a man with a gun. The question is, Murphy said, what kind of problem needs solving at the Monroe Ranch? The conversation was interrupted by Dr. Edmund Parks, who'd known Delilah's 3 deceased husbands. Afternoon, Doc, Murphy called. You hear about the widow's raffle? Dr. Parks ordered a brandy. I heard, he said quietly, and I'm concerned about what might be driving such dramatic measures. What do you mean? Marcus asked. Delilah Monroe is not the Black Widow that gossip makes her out to be. I attended all 3 of her husbands in their final illnesses. and I can assure you their deaths were entirely natural. Natural, Clayton's voice cracked. Even the one in the bathtub, Thomas Hartwell, had a weak heart. I'd warned him several times. Harold Whitmore died of consumption, and Benjamin Crawford drowned in an ordinary accident. Then why all the talk? Because when a young, attractive woman loses 3 husbands in 6 years, people prefer scandalous explanations to tragic coincidence. What kind of problems has she been having at the ranch? Cole asked. Dr. Parks turned to look at him. You're the ranger who won her raffle. Ex-ranger, Cole corrected. Then perhaps you should know that Delilah Monroe has been raising 2 young boys on a ranch that sits on some of the finest grazing land in the county. She's also been dealing with increasingly aggressive attempts to force her off that land. What kind of attempts? Fence cutting, cattle theft, mysterious accidents. 3 weeks ago, someone took a shot at her while she was riding fence with her boys. She reported it to Sheriff Morrison, but he's not the most energetic lawman. So she decided to recruit her own protection, Cole said. Apparently so. And from what I've heard about your reputation, she chose well. I haven't agreed to anything yet. No, Dr. Parks agreed with a knowing smile. But you will. Because you're not the kind of man who walks away from a woman in trouble. Before Cole could respond, the doors swung open, admitting Marina Brooks, a small elderly woman who moved with determined energy. She was Delilah's aunt and had been living at the ranch helping raise the boys. Mr. Blackwood, she said, marching to his table. I need to speak with you about my niece. Cole stood. Ma'am, please sit down. I'll stand, Marina said. We need to talk about Delilah. Delilah thinks she's clever, Marina continued, and she is. But she's also stubborn as a mule. This whole raffle business was her idea, and I told her it was ridiculous. What would you have her do instead? Pack up the boys and move to town, or accept one of the marriage proposals she's received and let a husband handle these problems. Marriage proposals? 3 of them in the past year. Good men with money who could protect her. But she turned them all down. Says she's not ready to compromise her independence. Independence doesn't stop bullets, Mr. Blackwood. You're worried about her. I'm terrified, Marina admitted. These aren't just random attacks anymore. Someone wants that ranch and they're getting more desperate. Delilah refuses to see how serious it is. What makes you think I can help? Because you're exactly the kind of man she needs, and exactly the kind she'll never trust easily. She lost 3 husbands, 3 good men who promised to protect her, and then left her alone. You think she's going to trust another man's promises easily after that? Cole began to understand the complexity. Delilah wasn't just looking for a hired gun. She was looking for help she could control, from someone who wouldn't try to take over her life. So what exactly are you asking me to do? Go out to the ranch, take a look at the situation, and decide whether you're the kind of man who can help a stubborn woman save herself without trying to save her from herself. Marina stood to leave, then paused. Oh, and Mr. Blackwood, don't let that crimson dress fool you. Delilah might look like spun sugar, but she's got more steel in her backbone than most men. Treat her accordingly. With that advice, she walked out, leaving Cole with the growing certainty that he was about to make a decision that would change everything. He finished his whiskey and stood. Decision made. Whatever was happening at the Monroe Ranch, whatever danger Delilah was facing, he was going to see it through. After all, he'd won a horse, and it seemed only polite to go collect his prize. The Monroe Ranch sat 15 miles northeast of Copper Valley at the end of a winding trail through beautiful country. Rolling hills covered in native grass stretched toward the horizon, broken by stands of oak and mesquite. It was good land, the kind men killed for. Cole had ridden out early the next morning. He'd spent the previous evening asking questions around town. The ranch controlled nearly 8,000 acres of prime grazing land, anchored by a year-round spring. Delilah's second husband, Benjamin Crawford, had inherited the land from his father. His untimely death left everything to his widow. The main house came into view as Cole topped a rise, a 2-story structure built from local stone and timber with a wide porch. Outbuildings were scattered around, a barn, bunkhouse, cookhouse, and corrals. 2 boys were working with a rope under the watchful eye of a woman in practical riding clothes. Even at a distance, Cole could see the distinctive auburn hair. This version of Delilah wore leather boots, canvas pants, and a cotton shirt. Her hair was braided back, and she moved with confident ease. She spotted his approach when he was still 100 yards out, saying something to the boys that sent them running toward the house. By the time Cole reached the yard, she was standing alone, hands on her hips. "Mr. Blackwood," she said as he dismounted. "You came." "I want a horse," Cole replied. "Seemed only polite to collect my prize." Up close, Delilah was even more striking. The practical clothes couldn't hide her figure, and the lack of face paint revealed natural beauty. But it was her eyes that held his attention. In the saloon they'd sparkled with mischief. Here they showed wariness. "He's in the corral behind the barn," she said. "But first I think we should talk about the real reason you're here." "About what?" "About why you're really here, what you really want from me." "You tell me. You're the one who arranged for me to win." "I arranged for the right kind of man to win," Delilah corrected. "A man with the skills to handle a particular kind of problem. And what kind of problem is that?" Instead of answering, Delilah walked toward the porch. "Would you like some coffee?" she asked. "Coffee is fine," Cole said. She called toward the house, and moments later one of the boys appeared. "Tommy, would you bring us some coffee, please? And tell Aunt Marina that Mr. Blackwood is here." The boy nodded and disappeared. "Nice boys," Cole said. "They're good kids. Tommy's 10 and Jacob is 8. They've been through enough upheaval. They don't need to lose their home." "Is that what this is about? Someone trying to take the ranch?" "Someone's been trying to take this ranch since the day I inherited it. The question is whether they're willing to kill for it." Tommy returned with a coffee service. "Thank you, honey," Delilah said. "Would you go find your brother and work on those arithmetic problems?" Tommy nodded and left. 3 weeks ago," Delilah said, "someone took a shot at me while I was riding fence with the boys. The bullet missed me by inches and scared Jacob's horse so badly he was nearly thrown." Cole felt his jaw tighten. "Any idea who?" "I have suspicions, but no proof. The same person who's been cutting my fences, running off my cattle, and making life difficult for anyone who works for me." "What about the sheriff?" "Sheriff Morrison is a good man for handling drunk cowboys. He's not equipped to deal with this, so you decided to handle it yourself." "I decided to get help. The right kind of help." Cole set down his coffee cup. "What makes you think I'm the right kind of help?" "Your reputation precedes you, Mr. Blackwood. 3 years with the Rangers, more successful arrests than any other lawman in Texas. Plus, you're not from around here. You don't have any local connections that might compromise your judgment." "Sounds like you've done your research." "I don't do anything without research. It's how I've managed to keep this ranch running and my boys safe for 6 years. "So what exactly are you proposing?" "I'm proposing to hire you. $50 a week, plus room and board to stay here and help me figure out who's behind these attacks." It was a generous offer. "And after we figure out who's behind it?" "We stop them by whatever means necessary." Delilah's smile was sharp. "Mr. Blackwood, I've buried 3 husbands and raised 2 boys in country that would break most women. I'm not looking for someone to fight my battles. I'm looking for a partner who can watch my back while I watch his." Cole felt something shift in his chest. Not just attraction, but recognition. He'd never met a woman who understood that kind of partnership. $50 a week is generous," he said. "The job's worth it. Question is, are you?" The question hung in the air, a challenge and an invitation. Cole looked at this woman who'd orchestrated an elaborate scheme to recruit him, who'd buried 3 husbands and refused to be broken, who was fighting to protect her sons with everything she had. He thought about riding away, leaving her to face whatever was coming alone. And he knew he couldn't do it. "I'll take the job," he said. She turned to look at him, those green eyes searching his face. "Just like that? You don't even know what you'll be up against?" "Lady," Cole smiled, "I've chased outlaws across half of Texas, faced down more guns than I can count, and survived 3 years of Ranger politics. Whatever you've got here, I can handle it." And that's how Cole Blackwood found himself staying at the Monroe Ranch, moving into the bunkhouse, settling in for what he thought would be a simple job of protection. He had no idea he was about to face the fight of his life, not just against the men who wanted Delilah's land, but against his own carefully guarded heart, that was already starting to fall for a woman in a crimson dress who'd walked into a saloon and changed everything. If you've made it this far, you're clearly invested in Cole and Delilah's story. The danger escalates, the romance intensifies, and there's a showdown coming that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think Cole and Delilah will survive what's coming? Will they find love, or will the past tear them apart? Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one.